So hey guys, in our last lesson we discussed the historical development of the periodic table. We also learned the periodic law as stated by Dmitry Mendeleev. In this lesson, we'll be considering some interesting features of the periodic table which will enhance our understanding of the periodic table. Elements are arranged in the periodic table in order of their atomic number, which is the number of protons in the nucleus of their atoms. Now this ensures that elements are arranged in such a way that they are lined up in groups which are the vertical columns you see in the table. Elements in the same group of the periodic table possess similar chemical properties. For example, they react in similar ways, and this is due to the fact that their atoms have the same number of electrons in their outermost shells. There are 18 groups of elements in the periodic table, but for simplicity and easy understanding, we will be numbering the groups 1 to 8. Now, the group number of an element tells you its number of valence electrons. Of course, valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost shell of that element. For example, sodium and oxygen are found in group 1 and 6 of the periodic table respectively. This means that sodium has 1 electron in its outermost shell, while oxygen has 6 electrons in its outermost shell. Now, in between group 2 and 3 of the periodic table is a block that contains special elements called the transition metals. Among these elements are metals that most people are very familiar with. Examples of common transition metals include iron, copper, silver, and even gold. If you take a close look at the periodic table, you will also notice that elements are arranged in horizontal rows. These rows are called periods. There are 7 periods in the periodic table and are numbered 1 to 7. Elements that are in the same period have chemical properties that are not similar. For example, the first 2 members of period 3, which are sodium and magnesium, are both metals and tend to lose electrons during chemical reactions. But sodium loses 1 electron while magnesium loses 2 electrons. Also, chlorine, which is located near the end of the period, is a non-metal and does not lose any electron during a chemical reaction, but tends to gain 1 electron. In period 6 and 7 of the periodic table, there are some elements called lanthanides and actinides respectively. The lanthanide series are actually elements that come after lanthanum, while the actinide series are elements that come after actinium. But for simplicity, these elements are not placed together with the period 6 and 7 elements in the periodic table. Rather, they are placed under the table. I strongly believe that you now have a good understanding of the periodic table based on what you've learned in this lesson. But before we conclude, let's do a simple summary of our discussion so far. There are 18 groups of elements in the periodic table, but the groups are numbered 1 to 8 for simplicity. Elements in the same group have the same number of valence electrons and similar chemical properties. The transition elements are found between groups 2 and 3 of the periodic table. In period 6 and 7, there are some elements called lanthanides and actinides respectively. In the next lesson, we will talk about the different classes of elements in the periodic table. But before we conclude, why not take your time to study the periodic table in your chemistry textbook? This will help you to get more familiar with it. Until then, bye for now.